Hi there guys, this is One Who Gets Crits Commander Jaime, and I'm here to demonstrate my Fenrir Wiseman deck profile that I took to the BWC in Chicago. And I wanted to cover some points why I picked the deck, and also go a little more in detail about my matchups. That way I can demonstrate and show what plays that I did against certain matchups, and what the deck can do outside of the actual Wiseman main loop that, you know, usually people are familiar with. And for those people not familiar with the loop, I'll provide a link to the video that Mason did about it. It's in the description, and feel free to take a look at that. One of the things I chose Genesis is because it's one of my starting clans, and it was about time that it became a viable option in the meta. So I figured I decided to play with it, and then with the introduction of the Wiseman loop, I basically gave it the extra push to consistently win more games than the regular Revelation build. One of the things I didn't like the full Revelation build is that if you really want to take advantage of the Revelation stuff, you have to basically call stuff from hand, and sometimes you really don't want to do that, but it was just something that it was different, and I knew that the Wiseman play was consistent enough to actually be viable. So that's why I picked Wiseman over that. It was just like, you get a bunch of attacks, you know, a lot of attacks is good. It's like playing Aqua Force, and I'm an Aqua Force fan, as you can see. So I'm going to go over the deck profile, and then afterwards I'm going to go over the details of my matchups. So let's begin. So I'm going to play for Fenrir. He's basically the Break Stride. You need him because he's the great setup for soul charging. Each time you stride, you soul charge 3. That way you can get all the stuff that you need in the soul for the Wiseman play. And other than that, he's also the Fenrir. He has the support for it, such as the crits to go into soul, and then other specific units like Gauja to make it even more viable to play Fenrir. And so, of course, his backup will be Wiseman. So I'm playing for Wiseman. I wanted to see Wiseman for sure, and so I play 4. Some people were playing 2, and then 2 of the other Revelation Grade 3, but I felt like I wanted to focus more on this just to see it. Even I could do like first stride, get some like 4 or 5 attacks if possible. That's enough to like deplete people's hands or get them to like high damage. So basically next turn you just like auto win. So seeing Wiseman is really important. You could always grab him from soul or from drop using the G guard, which is really good. Fenrir gives you that +1 on the stride skill, so really good card. So grade 2s, these are the basically not the 4-ofs. So I'm playing 2 Kotonaha and 1 Poker. 1 Poker is obviously for the Link Joker matchup, mainly Chaos, because they force you a card from hand to field, and so you may have to like unlock your front rows to actually kill him with Wiseman or just kill him in general. And Kotonaha basically is there for her useful Revelation skill early game too, and the ability to get like bigger. So I noticed that on the turns that you can like soul charge, even with Fenrir and the Witches and all the other like stride combos, not only that you're getting your Wiseman bigger, you're getting her bigger. So it's almost like an extra pseudo Wiseman attack. So having another bigger unit is nice, and they feel more in line of killing that unit too, because it could be a threat, and so they'd rather kill that or Wiseman if it's on the board, that kind of thing. So yeah, and it was less restrictive too. It's not GB. I know the other one is to get the other skill, and it costs a counter blast, which honestly I'd rather save the counter blast for like the Fenrir grade 3 skill and the grade 4 skill, you know. So those are the non-playset units that I played. And then of course another engine to help speed that up is the 4 lap wings. You counter blast, soul charge 3, and if you have a copy in soul, you draw 1 and you unflip. So it's almost like a free soul charge 3, and you can even basically get hand advantage if you like calling from soul, because that way you just get that +1 into hand, and then you have enough to like guard and live the next turn to do your combos, that kind of thing. Kind of sucks that he's an AK. It has came up, but he's so essential to get that turn speeded up, or at least get your first stride speeded up, so that your Wiseman can still be a threat with like 3, 4, 5 attacks. You know, almost like a title assault in a sense. So he's essential. Okay. So the next playset I play 4 Grappa. She is there to like help get more cards into Soul from deck, and of course, when you do the loop for Wiseman and you have your deck to like 1 or 2 cards, you can use her during the battle phase to like keep recycling the stand triggers back into Soul to keep restanding Wiseman continuously, getting a bunch of attacks up. Usually the average is like 7 to like 14 attacks kind of thing in that range. To help that with her is the grade ones into Valencia. Valencia does the same thing. I can only play 3. Some people play 4. I had trouble filling what I can take out for a 4th one, but I felt like 3 of her and 4 of the Grappa are just enough, and so that's why I went with that ratio. Another thing to note is that these 2 units, these are the units you actually kind of want to ride when you start, riding a grade 1, riding a grade 2, because the other rear guards are more essentially on the rear guard circle, and you don't have to worry about getting these into Soul if you roll with them. Another good candidate for riding a grade 1 is Gauja. He has a Soul effect where it's not GB restricted, and you can give a unit +3 and stand it, and then if you have a Vanguard with Fenrir in the name, you can +3 another unit or that same unit and Soul Charge 2, which is really good to fill up Soul and also make Wiseman bigger or any other unit too that you really need to at the moment. Just depends how the things are going in that turn. Sometimes you need to apply pressure, so it's not a problem using him preemptively, and you could always get it back later. And the deck gets shuffled with Dreaming Dragon too, so it's not a big deal. And you play 4 of them, so yeah, he's really good. And he has Revelation too, so you can look at the top card and it's like, if it's a trigger, I'll keep that, and then play my attacks according to it, whether it's a crit or a stand or a heal, and go from there, really. Now for the other cards, such as PGs, you need PGs because they're essentially there to help you on flip as well. You do spend counterblast on Fenrir, and it's nice to like on flip for the extra possible combo play you do with the grade 4 Fenrir, because that's the difference of like over 20k power to Wiseman if you're doing that loop. So every counterblast counts, and it's just I don't know what other PG you would play honestly that could help. You don't have to worry much about Wiseman being safe. You could always grab it back, or you can G-guard with Dismal, that kind of thing. Plus you run 4 of them. You're bound to see 1 in Soul, and you're going to call it back with Fenrir. Then I play 4 Stride Fighter. It's a stride deck. You really want to stride, and also you want to make sure you can ride on Fenrir. Kind of sucks when you have to ride Wiseman, so he's there to make that consistent as well. Nothing much more about that. And now into the grade zeros. I'm playing 4 heals, of course, pretty standard. The other thing is I'm playing 4 of the Fenrir carrot. He's nice because basically if for whatever reason you need an extra card at hand, you could always call him from Fenrir skill. And then when you attack, he just goes back into Soul, and then you get a +1 into your hand. You can also do other things to, like, you can call him early on for extra boost, like let's say, I don't know, Lapwing. You boost them, he can hit an 11k Vanguard or a 9k Vanguard, and it doesn't detriment you hard because you can just Soul Charge it in +1 later on, so you get that extra card back, for later on. I'm also playing another crit. I wanted to put a little more pressure, so I had more room for another crit, and it was the one basically that goes into Soul, give a unit +3, and it came up in the tournament too to make it more threatening for Wiseman. And again, it's another card in Soul too, because you want to have enough Soul to keep using Wiseman during that big loop turn. So stands, I'm playing 3 of the Dreaming Dragon. He's there for recyclability, and you can even call him from Fenrir and also like get a +1 later on, and especially against matchups against like Kagero and just stall decks, you can recycle and you live longer than them, even Chaos, He's there to also fix up like your deck if your Soul Charge were bad or something, and you were drawing your cards when they should have been in Soul, like Galjas and Witches, and it's just, he's there. He's been really helpful. So I played 3. And then of course I play for the new stand trigger, Taro. She's there to do the Wiseman loop. She's there to give Wiseman so many attacks too. If you can't do the loop, you could still do like a multiple attacks, and it also helps you not deck out as often too. And you can like keep using her. And I don't run a Forerunner. I use her as my Forerunner. If I'm able to at least guarantee one install, why not? And I can also do Wiseman on first stride without worrying to get another one install, because I already have one. That's at least 2 attacks from 1 card. So in some scenarios I could do like 4 battles first stride, no problem, kind of like Aqua Force. So having a lot more attacks is more effective usually. So that's why I play for her, and that's why I also play her as my Forerunner. And so we're going into the stride zone. I'm playing 2 tier. He's there to fill up the soul much quicker. You know, for every grade 1 or higher you drive track, you may soul charge 3. That helps speed it up. And then he can also check the top card, and if it's a trigger, you might want to leave it there, or you can bottom deck it and save it for later. You can do things like, if you bottom deck it, you can probably soul charge your deck enough that you can kind of like stack it, kind of like OTT does, and it's just like, wait, what's that card before I get that card? Oh, it's that crit. I like bottom deck. So maybe you want to do the Vanguard attack, and then you stack the crit on Wiseman or something like that later on, you know. Those kind of funny things. And then one of the MVPs is Fenrir. Fenrir is there because he helps you generate advantage as well, and he's there for the main loop. That way he can get Wiseman really big as shit, and because of that he can kill people really effectively. His Generation Break 2 skill is the Revelation. He changes it, and he makes it so that you don't have to rest the unit, and you check the top 2 cards, and you put one in soul and leave one on top, and then you can use the second skill to draw it or soul charge it as well, depending on what it is, you know, and the situation. And I'll go more into detail why he basically was MVP of the tournament. I'm playing for Vanagander. He's still good. I mean, being able to manipulate your drive track is really good. So you can, depending on your setup, you might have to go into him versus Fenrir, because you can't do the loop to make Wiseman big enough. So you could at least manipulate your drive track and put all the triggers on Wiseman, and then go off with Wiseman like that, you know. And at the same time, your opponent's hesitant to like not guard it, because like if they're at 4 damage and you see a crit, you're just gonna kill them at that point. So they're gonna most likely perfect guarded, and that's like 2 cards out of their hand, which is really good for Wiseman, so he can go through and finish them off. So there's not really a down situation with him, and he's there for that very reason. Then I'm playing Doombrace. Doombrace is there because he can give power to rear guards, and he doesn't cost a counterblast like Fenrir does, or he doesn't require Gelja if you don't have him in Sol, because he gives 5k at least to other units such as Wiseman. A situation came up where I did not have Geljas, and I didn't have any counterblasts left because I used them to get advantage, and so I showed him, and he was able to get Wiseman big enough to help me out finish off the game. And so pretty good. And then the one of Seabreeze, your Generation Break deck, you want to be in Generation Break, so he's there for those decks that stay at grade 2 and you punish them, and you can marry on with your own plays, you know. The only thing Generation Break with the Wiseman loop is the stand trigger, so that's why it's essential. Everything else is non-GB break, which was pretty good. So that's why I play the Seabreeze. And also, it's for poker too, if you really need to stride this to get poker off. But usually, I have the G guards for that, so it's not too bad. I'm running 3 of the Iris G guard. She's good because you want to soul charge stuff from the drop back. This gives you the ability on first stride to do Wiseman attacks and not really suffer from it, because you can just G-guard and put that stuff that you use from that turn back, and then continue off on your next turn to do the actual big turn. So that's really good, and it's, you know, soul charge 3 plus 5k that easily, you know. And I play 3 over it just in case you really need the extra soul charge. You just never know. I'm playing one of the 25k shield. Basically, if you have a copy in the soul on rear guard, plus 10, not a big deal, really good. Her counterpart is basically screw you. In case you don't have that rear guard to match the soul, you could just discard a card and get the same shield. and he's also a great elemental for poker. And then the very last card I play Dismal. He's there in case I need to protect my rear guard. Mainly Wiseman, just in case. And like your opponent can be smart enough that they don't give you a counterblast, so you can't bring Wiseman back from the soul, and so they'll attack it. And funny thing is, you can screw over Dimension Police players with Laurel, so if they can't hit with this, they don't restand with Laurel. So, fun fact. So, basically, going into my matchups, what did I lose to? I lost to only grade 1, 7 Cs, and I lost in time. That was it. I made it to round 6 and lost at that point. So my matchups from round 1 was Raging Abyss. Basically, I went first and I rushed them, which is kind of weird for a G-Break deck, but I knew that I should probably do something because Raging Form can kill you when they write Raging Form. So I did that, and funny thing is that I had him damage check a Raging Form, and he had a misride into the Abyss Legion and had to go to the Aura Geyser play, and that wasn't as scary because I was like a 1 or 2 damage at that point, really, because he was trying to catch up with me in the early game, so he was picking off my rear guards. And after that, I just won with Wiseman attacking a couple of times, and Wiseman wasn't even that big, honestly. I think Wiseman was a little over the 20k range, and he was at 5 damage, so it's like, I'm just going to attack you a lot of times. You're bound to not guard all of these, and that's it. You know, it's like Alco Force at that point. Round 2, Grigot, I faced it, and he rushed me with Paramours, which is odd, and didn't really have the great hand to come back with it, and so I had a first stride into Fenrir, this guy, and used his second skill to get back some hand advantage, and, you know, I kind of got rid of his rear guards because he kept calling them, and I was just like, you know, I'm not going to give him more counterblast, and I might as well just, you know, kill his rear guards, so he has to be forced for punishing them, and I lived the next turn, and then it came back to my turn, and I did Venegander, and it was a weird situation with my soul, and so I had to, like, basically stack triggers on the Wiseman instead, and boy, it was a hell of a drive check because I checked the top 4 and nothing, so I was like bottom deck the whole 4, and my next 2 drive checks were crit, and so Wiseman was swinging with crit 3, and I think he was like only 24k, I think. It was bad. Like, I had nothing to boost him up, and honestly had to depend on the triggers, and it was enough to kill him because he was critical 3. So that's how I won that game. And then the third round was Beast Deities. I didn't expect that. Again, they rushed me, and I was on the verge of death, and I strode into this guy and did the same thing for his second skill. Just draw cards, attack his rear guards. You know, he can't stand units if he doesn't have rear guards, so I might as well kill him. And I was able to live his turn with Catastrophe. I think he strode, and next turn I just finished him off with Venegander. Again, had to stack my crits. Like, the first, like, 2-3 rounds, I could not get, like, Gelges into soul. Like, they were getting damage check, or I was drawing them. Like, I was just like, what's happening? So that's why I was doing these, like, interesting plays. I was just like, well, I might as well do something to make me live and then still be able to finish them off. So that's how that one went. Round 4 was G17Cs, and boy, that was basically Degenerate deck versus Degenerate deck. I already know that was at a disadvantage because, you know, they're a grade 1 and they can do at least 5 attacks usually, and Fenrir doesn't do very well in the early game, and that's why, you know, I was able to win these games because I was able to stride to this guy to get advantage back, but I can't even stride, so I just die. That kind of thing. So yeah, I lost to grade 1 7Cs. Good guy too. So it wasn't like, you know, an asshole playing. He was really good. Good talk. But we know we both playing Degenerate decks, and we know how it came out, so it was good. Round 5, Sanctuary Guard. Basically, what I did is that I only gave him 2 damage, and it didn't really matter because he had the Blaster Friend Barco, and it unflips when you call Blaster Blade onto rear guard, so it's just like, I might as well, you know, gave him the second damage, no problem, and then I just kept attacking his rear guards at first, so I was able to like withstand the early rush, and then again I first showed Fenrir and drew cards. I drew 4 cards, so I left 1 open. I was at 5 damage. So just in case I needed to bring back a Wiseman, in case I needed to guard all with all my hand next turn, that kind of thing. And then the next turn I just live his Regalia and out my turn because he first strode. So basically he first strode Regalia, and then I first strode this, and then he did all mile, and I lived that, and then came back my turn. I did the Doom Berets, I think. I forgot what strat I did, but point is, I did Wiseman play still, and Wiseman was about 40 something K, and it was enough to like kill him from 2 to 6 damage, because I had about 9 attacks, I think. So yeah, that's how I won that one. And then the next round, round 6, was Sanctuary Guard again. So I was just like, okay, I already know how to play this again. And interestingly enough is that we were both great second 2 for 2 consecutive turns for each of us. He actually attempted the G assist and succeeded. I did it and then failed. But since he succeeded, he lost 2 cards. And from there, he rolled a grade 3 first, and I took that and lived. And then I had Fenrir from the drive check, which is nice. So I rode him and strode it into this Fenrir. And again, I got my hand advantage back. Killed his rear guards because I purposely left him 1 damage, and he already had used it, so he had no more face-up damage at all, and he can't do other skills like Benon and the crit trigger for Blaster Blade to keep restanding. That's shenanigans. So after that, he couldn't really do much, and then what sucked is that I strode Fenrir again, and time was called. Like 5 minutes left, and so I had to freaking do the whole loop as quick as I can, and I got Wiseman over 50k, and basically I was gonna swing the whole turn for 11 or 12 attacks with Wiseman, and since I had 4 of the stand triggers and so I could do a Vanguard attack and then restand the Wiseman and the 2 rear guards, which counts for the extra attack that I mentioned for Wiseman. So basically he went from 1 to 4, and then that's when the time went up, and I just lost at that point, and he lost too. I felt like the player was stalling a bit when he was just guarding the first couple ones, and I'm just like, you can't guard all of this. I should have been a little more assertive, telling like, dude, just go to 5 damage and hope for a heal or something, and then from there decide if you can guard all this or not, because these are over 10 attacks, and then plus a Vanguard attack, but I guess you live and learn, and it sucks having to lose to the time limit. I wish they changed that, so that's something that I hope they do in the future. They did give us a survey, and hopefully they agree with most of the people that they get rid of that. And yeah, so that's how I basically ended up. When X2 made it to round 6, lost to Degenerate deck, and only 2 time loss. Other than that, the deck is really good. It's powerful. As I told you earlier, I couldn't do the Wiseman player in the first couple rounds, and I had to do different kind of plays. And Fenrir was MVP because he gives you those +1s to hands, and he keeps you in the game, and sometimes it puts you far in the game because they call all their stuff to the field, and some of those clans can't recuperate their hand after doing that, so it makes it easier to finish them off with Wiseman. So it's really good. And so yeah, that's pretty much it. Other than that, yeah, feel free to subscribe, like, and we'll do more videos with this deck profiles, and wanting to do some matchups, but not like mainstream matchups, maybe some like random stuff, like some Regalia matchups with like Bermuda or something like that, something cool. That way it gives other people different decks to potentially play at like these big events and actually try to top, So yeah, thanks guys, and see you till next time. Bye.